What is going on, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video. I've been talking about doing for the past number of weeks, and I've been putting it off because I didn't know the perfect timing for it. But even now, I'm just like, let's get it done with. I spent a long time working on these notes. I've been working on these notes for the last week, and I even talked about doing this video last week. And it is my off-season grades video for the NBA 2023 off season. The first time I'll be doing this. I did something very similar at the trade deadline. I went through all 30 teams and what they did or did not do, and I gave a grade for it. Now, spoiler, there's no Fs. I didn't give any Fs. I have gave a couple of Ds, D pluses, but I am very much lenient with my grades, and I'll obviously explain why I graded something like I did, but I am grading based on what they did in the offseason, not what their team looks like, not what they did last year. But once you see the first team, you'll be like, oh, he actually is being serious, like what the hell type of thing. So I will also admit I'm not the smartest when it comes to the NBA draft. That's why I didn't make any draft. I made very little draft content just because I'm not 100% familiar with everybody in the draft. So if someone was drafted to a team, and if I know who was drafted to a team, it means I have some type of knowledge towards them. But once it gets to second round picks, I start to question because it's is this guy even going to play for this team next year in rotational minutes? So that's why if draft related stuff, if I mention it, it's probably a big deal into the grade. So like I said, once you see the first grade, you will completely understand my grading skill, because like I said, I'm grading based on what they did in the offseason. So like I said, without any further ado, this is part one, Western Conference teams, and the first team I'll be starting with are the NBA champions, the Denver Nuggets. Like I said, I gave them a very low grade. I gave them a D+. Now, one last thing. This is the last thing I probably should have mentioned. I made a whole series talking about things I wanted to see in the offseason, and I went through almost all 30 teams. The main two teams I didn't talk about were the Utah Jazz and Indiana Pacers, because I was just saying I like what they're doing, but I'll talk about that more once I get to those two teams. But in the last video, I will be referencing those videos a lot, because that's what I wanted to see, and it was just my recommendations on what the team would need to do. And like I said, for the Nuggets, they just won the title. I will say a year from now, this team will not look like a D+, because like I said, they just won the title, and it's going to be very difficult to defeat them. But the main reason I gave them a D+ is because I was saying in that video, the main thing they're going to need to do this offseason is replace Jeff Green and Bruce Brown, because they contributed a lot to their playoffs run, in particular the finals, which is just that's the most recent thing they remember. So the recency bias is very heavy there, but just they did not do that. They signed Justin Holiday, DeAndre Jordan, and Reggie Jackson. The last two guys who were on the roster in the playoffs and barely played. It's just that's more of a locker room regular season when someone needs to rest. Those guys will play. Justin Holiday, this is another saying I'll be saying a lot in this video. It's just it depends on what day of the week it is on if he can contribute or not contribute. And with Justin Holiday, that's the case. But they lost Bruce Brown and Jeff Green and did very little to replace those guys. Maybe Christian Braun will break out so much this year that losing both won't hurt. And like I said, when it comes to the draft, I know they made several draft picks. Again, this is a title contending team, just won the title. I don't know how many of those guys are going to be playing. So that's why I gave them a D+. And also, Jeff Green and Bruce Brown are two guys that they signed the last two off seasons. So they have been signing guys to contribute to their teams. And they just didn't this year for some reason. So that's why I gave them a D+. Now, next team, Minnesota Timberwolves. I was recommending they run this team back with Karl-Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Edwards, because trading Rudy Gobert, you're not going to get half as much value back as you did to get Rudy Gobert. And Karl-Anthony Towns was injured most of last year, and it's just a very questionable situation. But it's just I think that this team, it will take a lot for this team to work, but it's just not something they should have pulled the plug on yet. And that's the case. They have not traded Karl-Anthony Towns. They have not made a trade. They've brought these guys back. They signed Troy Brown Jr. and Shake Milton. And like I said, the saying I'll be saying a lot, depends on what day of the week it is, if these guys contribute, which is Shake Milton and Troy Brown Jr. definitely have their moments. The most notable things that Minnesota did were extend Anthony Edwards and Naz Reid, which I will not lie, I expected Naz Reid to be on a new team, so bringing him back is questionable in the sense of they have 3 centers on their roster. They're paying a lot of money because a lot of people still look at Karl-Anthony Towns as a center, but you didn't lose him for nothing. You brought him back, and he did contribute a lot last year. So I gave Minnesota a B- because, like I said, they did what I recommended, and I don't think they got any worse. They stayed the same at worst. But I think that will probably be a little bit better with Cat hopefully being healthy. Next, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, I keep forgetting. I need to start writing my intros out because I keep forgetting stuff. But this is one of the first video where I've used a highlighter. So not every team has a highlight, but I wrote a little statement out saying if it's highlighted, it's just something that I need to mention in this. So this is the first highlighted team, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the highlight is Chet Holmgren. The main reason I'm saying that, we didn't see him last year play at all because he was hurt. So their big all-season move, I guess, is we're hopefully going to see Chet Holmgren next year. That's why they didn't have to make a move. The team exceeded expectations last year, and adding Chet Holmgren, like I said, it's not going to make this team worse. It's going to make it better. Now, they did trade for Victor Oladipo, Ty Washington, Des Bertans. There's probably some people I'm missing. Out of those 3 guys, I don't know if any of those guys will be playing. So having those guys is, I want to say this word a lot, questionable, but it is what it is. But they did draft Cason Wallace with the 10th pick, so I gave him a B. They didn't have to do anything to blow everything out of the water because they're adding Chet Holmgren, and that's good enough. And so we will see what this team will look like. And I won't be doing my standings predictions now, but that is a video, again, that will be coming down the line. I definitely expect the Thunder to make a bigger jump next year in the standings. Next team. This was a difficult one to grade. The Portland Trailblazers. The highlight for this team is what about Dame? I made a whole video 5 months ago. It was essentially just me saying, trade Damian Lillard. But you need to trade him for something that's going to fit your team. And that is the predicament that they're in now. Damian Lillard is ready to move on. He only wants to go to Miami Heat. And whatever the hell they get back from the Miami Heat is probably not going to help this team. So the highlight is, what about Dame? Right now, we still don't know. So I wanted to kind of give a question mark as a grade because it's I anticipate Damian Lillard is going to get traded. So it's just let me see that trade happen, and then I can go back and do it. But no, I gave it a C-. I gave the Portland Trailblazers a C- because they're just right in the middle. Draft-wise, knocked it out of the park. Drafted Scoot Henderson with the 3rd pick and Chris Murray with the 23rd pick. But the re-signing of Jeremy Grant for $30 million a year is questionable. I'm just going to keep saying it. But I don't hate it as much as a lot of people do. Like I said, I ain't never going to try to take a dollar out of anybody's pocket. And so Jeremy Grant is a great player, and paying him $30 million is great and all. But I just don't see Jeremy Grant being on this team for the duration of this contract. They also brought back Matisse Thybulle. This team is just draft-wise, I couldn't give them an F or anything. Because draft-wise, that's a part of the offseason. They did great. Re-signing is just questionable. It's just I need to see what happens with this Damian Lillard situation. So for now, it's a C-. If/when that trade happens, I'll probably dwell and talk more about this down the line. Next, the Utah Jazz. I said earlier when I was doing my offseason predictions and what I wanted to see videos, the Utah Jazz I didn't mention because I didn't know what the hell they needed to do. I was just keep doing what they're doing because they're doing all right with it. And what they're kind of doing is just taking chances on guys. And if they fit the team, great. And they're just always going to be a somewhat competent team, the Utah Jazz. Because just the Utah Jazz have just never been a bad team. Once they moved on from the Stockton era, it's just that was the Darren Williams era, and they were in the playoffs. They were at AK-47. And then once that era was kind of done, they had Gordon Hayward, Rudy Gobert. It's just they always have somebody that's going to shine. And last year was Lauri Markkanen, who the year prior was coming off the bench. And he started for Utah and won Most Improved Player. So the Utah Jazz are always going to be a good team. They traded for John Collins. They re-signed Jordan Clarkson, and draft-wise, they drafted Taylor Hendricks with the 9th pick and Keontae George with the 16th pick. John Collins, the main reason I'm hesitant on this trade is because I take positions in basketball serious, and I would prefer Lauri Markkanen being at the power forward, but the last 2 years he's been playing small forward, so it makes a lot more sense because John Collins is now going to be at the power forward for the Jazz. So I'm going to give the Utah Jazz an A. I probably could give it an A plus, but it's just like I don't know how much higher this team's going to be next year. So if it was just like they made a trade that's just like they're going to be a certified playoff team, I'd probably give it an A plus. But for now, give it an A. They didn't do anything that I hated, so it is what it is. Next, the Golden State Warriors. What a weird situation we are in. In my offseason video predictions, I was like saying they probably should bring Draymond Green back. As long as Steph Curry is there, keep the core there that got them their championships, and they re-signed Draymond Green. And I was like, well, if you're going to re-sign Draymond Green, you probably need to trade Jordan Poole. And they did that. But I was just like, I don't know what a hell a good Jordan Poole trade looks like. And the trade that we got was one I did not anticipate. So they traded Jordan Poole for Chris Paul. And this might be the last time I want to say it. Questionable. This is just like hella freaking questionable. So the weird thing about it is, and this is just kind of the main thing we've been seeing when I see Golden State Warriors, I was like, is Chris Paul going to come off the bench? Like, is he? It's just because like he's never came off the bench in his career. It's just a weird situation. And the main reason it's weird is like I just saw a tweet today. Also, it was like Jordan Poole workout video, and the quote was like, "The Warriors just gave up a 23-year-old for a 38-year-old." It's just like, what the hell? But the main like problem is just like, is Chris Paul going to come off the bench? I think it'd be best for it because the guy you traded was also coming off the bench and was somewhat productive in his role. And Chris Paul coming off the bench would be definitely productive. And you're not screwing up your starting five with Curry, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, and Kevon Looney. So I would keep Chris Paul off the bench. But is that going to cause tensions? Is that going to cause problems? Maybe. That's something that comes down the line. I gave him a B-. I was just... The Jordan Poole, the Chris Paul trade is just, we'll have to see how it goes. I did not make a reaction video to that because, like, I didn't think it was real. I didn't know really what to anticipate with that. They also signed Corey Joseph and Dario Saric, who I definitely think Saric will contribute. Corey Joseph, we will see. Next team to talk about, the Los Angeles Clippers. My highlighted thing for the Clippers is James Harden, ? I don't really want to see that trade happen because I think the Clippers on paper are a great team. It's just like we never see that team that's on paper play when it matters most, aka the playoffs. And I think adding Harden, you're probably going to give up a lot. Like right now, they're trying not to, which makes sense because we've kind of been over the song and dance with Harden several times now. Also, I did have another highlight moment. Like, this is probably the last time we'll see this team if they don't perform well. Would you re-sign Kawhi Leonard and Paul George if we just get the same thing that we've been getting, just them not playing in the playoffs? We will see. Again, that's something down the line. Talk about this offseason. They traded for Kenyon Martin Jr., who, is he going to play? I don't know. We will see. They re-signed Russell Westbrook and Mason Plumlee, both of which I did not anticipate that happening, but they got them back on the team. So I gave them a B+. I probably could have gave them an A- because I like this team on paper. Again, we just never see the team on paper. So I gave them a B+, and like I said, I don't really want to see a Harden trade happen. Next, definitely hurts me to say it, but the highest grade out there, in this video at least, the Los Angeles Lakers. I gave them an A+. They re-signed the guys that contribute to them for a lot in the playoffs, and it's just like they didn't overpay for any of them. That being Austin Reeves, Roy Hachimura, and D'Angelo Russell. The guys they signed were guys that teams were gunning after, and of course with them being the Lakers, the big team, the big franchise, they were able to sign them. Those guys being Gabe Vincent, Taurean Prince, Cam Reddish, and Jackson Hayes. Gabe Vincent and Taurean Prince, I anticipate having a big impact. Cam Reddish, I hope he does because I've liked Cam Reddish ever since he came out of college. He's just never, it's just the same thing we keep hearing. He just never got a chance, but I don't know if he's going to get a chance with the Lakers. And then Jackson Hayes, that's the question mark because Anthony Davis misses time from time to time. I don't know if Jackson Hayes would be the starting center if Anthony Davis would go out. I think they would anticipate, what is the word I'm looking for? They would try to play Jared Vanderbilt or LeBron James at center over Jackson Hayes. So it's just like the Jackson Hayes signing, they needed another center. He was out there. That's like the main thing I would question from the Lakers. They also drafted Jalen Hood-Schifino with the 17th pick. but the Lakers don't really like playing rookies that much. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, it's an A+. The guys they re-signed for the cheap and needed to re-sign them and didn't, like I said, they didn't overpay. The guys they signed were guys that a lot of teams were going after, and with them being the Lakers, they were able to sign them, and they were just in the Western Conference Finals. They didn't get any worse. They got better at best. Now, the next team, the Phoenix Suns. Gave them a B-. Now, my highlight for the Phoenix Suns was they don't have a proper point guard, because they traded away Chris Paul. They traded away Cameron Payne, which we will see. I think Devin Booker is starting at point guard for him next year, which he's played from time to time. But it's just like, I said it in the Bradley Beal trade reaction. It was just like, that was my first instinct. Just like what I was thinking was like, they just traded for a more expensive, less efficient Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. It's just like, I see so many similarities with them. It's just like, I don't know how it's going to work. But like, as of right now on the roster, they still don't have a proper point guard. But they made a lot of signings. They signed Bol Bol, Eric Gordon, Josh Okogie, Yuta Watanabe, Drew Eubanks, who I think personally is their best signing, Keita Bates-Diop, and Damon Lee. All of those guys will contribute something to the Suns that they will need. Bol Bol, this is I think, a great comparison for Bol Bol. He's a unicorn. Because when you see him, it's just like, wow, magnificent. But we just don't see him that often. It's always something up. Eric Gordon provides a little bit of everything. Probably will most likely come off the bench and be a six-man. He is a former six-man of the year, I believe. Josh Okogie did well for the Suns last year on defense. Yuta Watanabe was a great three-point shooter last year. Again, probably coming off the bench. Drew Eubanks does a lot for them. Will do a lot for them defensively and rebounding-wise. Keita Bates-Diop, again, kind of does a little bit of everything. I gave it a B-. Like I said, this is the thing with the Suns. They have Frank Vogel, which I probably should have wrote that down, but I remember it. This team was in the finals in 2021. And like the Lakers, has gotten rid of, like when the Lakers won the finals, they've gotten rid of almost everybody on that team. They have two guys left, and they don't even have the coach that took them to the finals. They have Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, which DeAndre Ayton, ever since he signed that extension, has been in trade talks, and I don't think a trade is going to happen because they want the world for him. But guess what? If you want to get rid of someone, you're not going to get the word for him because everybody knows you want to get rid of them. So there's a possibility, like one guy that was on that finals team is still on this team. And while they did get Kevin Durant, I don't know if you sacrificing that team at a possibility of, I don't know. I want to flat out say, I just don't like this team would be like strong hating. It's just like, it's very hard for me to believe in this team. Because like I said, they're just in the finals and they got rid of everybody. And it's just like the guys that they have, it's just like, questionable. I know I said I wasn't going to say it, which is like now I'm slightly getting pissed, so that's why I said it again. I just don't know what the hell to anticipate with the Suns team. A lot of people are high on them. I'm going to be the guy that is low on them. But I did give them a B-. Next team, the Sacramento Kings. I gave a C+. The main thing I was saying was I'd like to see them make a big change and just like not be okay with making the playoffs last year. I will not lie. They were the 3rd seed, which I did forget. I didn't remember they made the playoffs. It's very weird that like they were the 3 seed because the Warriors won, which, I can't really talk because my team was a higher seed and lost their series. Anyways, but my highlight with them was they cleared cap space to re-sign guys, which is just like when we're seeing that they're clearing cap space, like, oh, they're going to try to make a big move, and that just didn't happen. They re-signed Harrison Barnes, Trey Lyles, and Alex Len. The other thing I recommended for the Kings to do was get some type of rim protection, which Nerlens Noel might be able to do that. He should be able to do that, but it's just like, I really doubt we see him on the floor together with Domantas Sabonis. So when the hell are we going to see Nerlens Noel? They also traded for Chris Duarte. It's just like, I wanted them to make a move that they probably didn't want to make, and they're okay with the spot that they were in last year. It's just like, they don't want to try to do something big and mess up, which is just understand. So that's why I was in the middle with their offseason. So that's why I got a C+. Nothing that blew me out of the water, but nothing that just made me disappoint. And it's like, yep, this is going to be a terrible team next year. Next, the Dallas Mavericks. They re-signed Kyrie Irving and Dwight Powell. They drafted Derek Lively with the 12th pick. They were able to get off the Davis Bertans contract, which I did not anticipate. They signed/traded for Grant Williams, giving up Reggie Bullock and second-round picks, and they also signed Seth Curry. I gave him an A-. I also have a Mavericks hat on for this video, so it's weird because, I don't like wearing my hats like this. So I'll wear it like this for this video. But I wanted them to re-sign Kyrie Irving because, we didn't see a lot of them last year. It's just anywhere that Kyrie would want to go, the Mavericks weren't going to get anything better for him in a sign-and-trade situation. Dwight Powell has just been a Maverick for such a long time. It would have been weird seeing him on any other team. Derek Lively was a guy a lot of people probably wanted to draft, which, he was a 12th pick. Several people had the chance to draft him, but that's besides the point. I think he can contribute for the Mavericks. Grant Williams, while he isn't, I think he's kind of on the same tier as Dorian Finney-Smith, which once they traded Dorian Finney-Smith away, they immediately missed him. We'll see if he can contribute on the same level. That's what I think that should be his goal, which Grant Williams has been in the finals before, so he's not a scrub. I like Grant Williams. And then Seth Curry, while we didn't see him contribute a lot last year, mainly due to injury and just questionable lineups. I think he always performs well in Dallas, so I gave him an A-. They did what I wanted them to do. Made small little signings and brought back Kyrie Irving. But again, it's just they didn't do anything that's just this is going to be such a great team next year and will be a finals contender. But I definitely think they'll be better than last year because now they know what they're getting into. Where last year at the deadline, it's just oh no, what's going to happen? And then they end up missing playoffs, but they miss it to be in a better position now. So we'll see what happens. Next team, a team that did a lot. The Houston Rockets. My highlight for them is they have Ime Udoka. And that's kind of a new era in Houston. I don't want to say that Ime. I feel bad for Steven Silas because when he signed there, they still had James Harden with Russell Westbrook. And then it immediately went to crap. But I kind of also looked if you can't coach a bad team, what makes you can be able to coach a good team? That just might be me overthinking that. But this team signed Dillon Brooks, Fred VanVleet, Jeff Green, Aaron Holiday, and Jacques Landale. They drafted Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore, a guy they could have drafted, or Amen Thompson at 4 and Cam Whitmore at 20. Cam Whitmore, a guy they could have drafted at 4, and they anticipated drafting him at 4. And to get him at the 20th pick, holy crap, y'all must have done something right. They also traded away Ty Washington, Josh Christopher, Usman Garuba, and Kenyon Martin Jr. I gave him a B-. Dillon Brooks, as a Grizzlies fan, is a guy that the word of this video feel questionable about. As a Grizzlies fan, I loved what he did defensively. Offensively, he screwed us a lot. And with the Rockets, I feel that they have so many other guys there because they just made a lot of signings. They've done well drafting. If that's the case where he's screwing them offensively, some change will happen. Or at the Grizzlies, they couldn't afford to make that change happen. Fred VanVleet is kind of the same way, but at least Fred VanVleet has all-star and championship experience. So I gave them a B- because they did go out of their way to make big signings. Drafting-wise, they did well, and they will be a better team next year. But it's just if this goes bad, this will just go bad. Where if you look at the other teams, this is the team, if something was to go bad, this is the team that you would immediately point at and say that. So, I don't hate the signings. It will be an interesting situation to see what happens when it happens. Next, the New Orleans Pelicans. I gave them a D+. I wanted to give them a D, a D-. They did nothing. Anytime you say the New Orleans Pelicans, it's just oh, what about Zion? What about Zion? And it's just this is the 4th year, now going into the 5th year of saying this crap, and I hate it. They drafted Jordan Hawkins at 14, which, if he comes out and becomes a great player, this will make me look like an idiot. But like I said, I'm not 100% familiar with draft people, and it's just they also have so many other people on their roster, don't know if he will play. They signed Cody Zeller, which, until I looked this up on Basketball Reference, I couldn't have told you, oh my God, they signed Cody Zeller. They re-signed Herb Jones and E.J. Liddell. Herb Jones is great defensively, but it's just doing that is something that was common sense. That didn't really improve their offseason, improve their team. And like I said, in my offseason videos, it's just What do you do with Zion? What do you do with Zion? They like you're not supposed to go out of your way to like answer that. Obviously, it would probably help and like make your fan base like more hopeful, but it's just like I personally just don't want to see the same crap over and over again, especially with a team that has assets, good contracts, and good picks where they could make a move to be a good team without Zion, with also keeping Ingram and getting Ingram some help. Because until Zion plays in the playoffs for the Pelicans, I'm saying it's Brandon Ingram's team. So I gave him a D+. I could have been mean and gave him a D-, D. I just gave him a D+. I was just like, they did nothing that like impressed me, and like I said, will move the waters for their team next year. Next, the San Antonio Spurs. I gave them an A-. I don't want to say I'm the one that manifested this, but in my very first, what I want to see things happen in the offseason, I said I wanted the Spurs to draft Victor Wembanyama. And guess what? That was before the draft lottery even happened, and they did that. So they kind of had an easy thing to do this offseason. They re-signed Trey Jones. They have traded for Reggie Bullock, Cedi Osman, and Cam Payne. Who of those guys will be playing for the team next year? We'll see. I imagine Reggie Bullock will. I gave him an A-. Like I said, there'll be a better team next year, solely on the fact that they drafted Victor Wembanyama. But it's just nothing that is just like, yes, I guarantee you playing, guarantee the playoffs. Which maybe they would hope for that to happen, obviously. But it's just like maybe they're okay with being bad and continuing to get good picks, and then at some point they will be over the top. But maybe that thing isn't this year. But now we get to the last team. I said the best for last. The Memphis Grizzlies, my team. I'll be partial, They traded for Marcus Smart. They gave up Tyus Jones and 2 first-round picks, which in my reaction video, I was very like, I can't believe they gave up 2 first-round picks. And at the moment, I didn't know the picks. It was the pick this year, which I think it was a 25th pick. And they gave up the Warriors' top 3 protected pick, which we got for trading for Andre Iguodala such a long time ago. And just look at what the Warriors team will look like next year. Probably won't be the greatest draft pick. So the 2 first-round picks, I don't want to say they were nothing, but it's just like, I'm not losing sleep over giving up those picks. They also let Dillon Brooks walk, but it was a sign-and trade in which they got Josh Christopher and, according to Fanspo, a $9 million trade exception. I've seen various numbers on what this trade exception will be, so I'm just going to stick with $9 million for now because that was the one that was on Fanspo. They signed Derrick Rose, which I made a whole offseason video talking about the Grizzlies, and I was like, I think the logic thing is trading Tyus Jones for a starting small forward and then possibly signing a Tyus Jones replacement, which Derrick Rose, while he didn't play a lot last year, he is a former MVP. He still has a lot left in the tank, as Mark Henry would say, and playing where he played at college, and also being one of my favorite players of all time, I can't hate it. One of my favorite players of all time, my favorite team. I am not going to say anything bad about that. He also extended Desmond Bane, which was just a common sense thing. But the last highlight of this video, I said we need a breakout from Zaire Williams or David Roddy. Because, again, in my Marcus Smart reaction video, I was saying, Marcus is going to start the first 25 games. Hopefully they signed a start small forward, which, spoiler alert, they didn't do that. But the way I've been hearing Grizzlies Nation talk, Grizz Nation talk, also, it's just like, we anticipate Smart starting point guard till Ja comes back from his suspension, first 25 games. And we don't know who will be the start small forward. They have said John Conchar. I love Giddy. I would rather see Zaire Williams or David Roddy in that spot. But Zaire did not have a good year last year. He started off hurt, just never got his footing. David Roddy was a rookie. Me personally, I just don't have high expectations for rookies, but he did great in my opinion. But now you are a contending team. You made a big move. You've got your big threes, your big 3 extended. This is the time you need to compete. Like I said, you made the big move for Marcus Smart. You need Zaire or Roddy. I think Zaire will start at small forward. Hopefully he goes into the season healthy. That's going to be the determining factor in that. So I gave him an A-. Hopefully, Marcus Smart fits this team well. Everybody's like, well, they're going to miss Dillon Brooks. They're going to miss Dillon Brooks. Marcus Smart's going to substitute for that and probably be in a better position in the long run. Also, hopefully Steven Adams is healthy because, you know, he should have been healthy by now, but we still don't know what the hell's going on with him, which I hate. So that's it. Got through the first 15 teams, the Western Conference teams. Most likely tomorrow, at the latest Wednesday, I'll be doing this for the Eastern Conference teams, and I think I'll be going through those teams a bit quicker because not a lot of East teams made any dramatic changes. So we'll see once we get there. So thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm about to fart, but I'm not doing it on video because I am polite. So thank you.